Hey guys, Nick Smith here, and today's going to be part 2 of my skin retouching tutorial series. And this time we're going to be focusing on the healing brush, which is different than the spot healing brush because you actually choose where you're going to be sampling texture from when you're healing the skin. Now, first, I'd like to apologize for the lack of content lately. I just got over the flu. I'm starting to feel better, but I'm still actually feeling a little bit sick. So hopefully I don't sound too bad during the recording of this tutorial. First thing we're going to do is create a new layer with Control-Alt-Shift-N or Command-Option-Shift-N if you're on Mac. And then we're going to hit J to select one of the healing tools. Now, by default, it'll probably be on this first one, which is spot healing. And if you don't want to have to go all the way over here with the mouse and then click, what you can actually do is just hit Shift J, and it'll cycle through all the healing tools. So if we hit it again, it'll go to the patch tool. If we hit it again, it'll go to the, I think it's content aware move. Yeah, and then, but we want to make sure we're on just the regular healing brush. And let's go ahead and zoom in now. And as you can see, we're going to have quite a few areas we need to work on. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and sample an area of skin by holding down Alt, and it'll bring up this crosshair. And then when you touch, it'll sample the skin from wherever you're at. So let's go ahead and zoom in here, and we'll see I'm touching there, and then it's going to paint, and you'll see there's an extra little crosshair just down below it, and that's showing where we're actually sampling from. Now, by default, I'm pretty sure aligned is off, but we want to make sure it's checked because that way if we move over, it'll follow. So you'll see the crosshair moves wherever I go, and it kind of goes ahead and samples a new area that's nearby. I do like to typically sample in between each heal, but it is still nice that if I decide to move over, I'm not just cloning texture from the original area I sampled at. So there is a small debate about the healing brush, and that is between the old school professional retouchers who use the version that had where you would draw and it would actually go ahead and just make a black spot, and then you'd pick your sample, you'd draw over it, it would be a black spot, and then it would calculate the best healing possibility. Photoshop actually changed this, and I think in CS6 with the live healing brush, which actually shows what you're healing as you're doing it. A lot of the old school retouchers don't really like that because they feel that the other version gave a superior result. However, I personally like this version because I can see what I'm doing while I'm doing it. So I'm just going through and sampling. Every time you see this little crosshair, that's because I'm making a new selection, and then when I paint, I'm healing with that selection. So anytime you see that crosshair icon pop up, it's because I have started to actually go ahead and sample something. And every now and then you'll have to go over some areas a few times because it's tricky, and this is one of those things that the old school retouchers I mentioned think is a easier job with the old tool because it did a better job calculating it, but I don't mind going over a few times just to make sure I have my live preview and I can see what it's going to look like ahead of time. So we're just going to go through here and sample anywhere we see an odd texture we want to go ahead and patch up. And it's just really simple. We're just hitting Alt, making a sample, and then painting where we need it. And we're sampling nearby the skin texture we're starting with because we don't want to be pulling texture from, let's say, the forehead and putting it down on the cheek because it's not going to look right. It's going to be a completely different kind of grain to the skin, which is not going to look, it's not going to look right if we do it that way. So we're just going to keep going through here, healing every little bit that we can that needs it or that we feel just could look a little bit better. I'm actually going to go ahead and zoom in. And this is actually really nice to get rid of like fine hairs like this. You can just sample and paint away hairs really easily. I used to be very particular about this. I would actually do this for every little flyaway hair around the head, and eventually it got to be a little too time consuming, especially with how many edits I do in an average week. So we're just going to keep going through here like this, making these samples, healing this up. Really nice and easy. This is not a difficult process in the least bit. It's just a little time consuming, and it takes some attention to detail. And you just have to know exactly what you're looking for and kind of develop your own style. Like, I retouch a lot. I am very, very nitpicky with what I do, and I'm very detail oriented, and I want it to look flawless and still maintain a somewhat natural appearance. But some people, what they like to do is they like to go back here to about, I think, 200%, and then they'll just heal what they can see like this. But I'm someone who really likes to get in there and actually kind of see what I'm working on. And to my opinion, that actually makes a better retouch overall, but it just kind of gives a smoother look to the overall look to the skin. So we're just going to continue on like this, keep making our samples, working our way through the image as we go. And we're just kind of going through, and every now and then I'll go back if I notice something, because that'll happen a lot when you're retouching. Like, things that you overlook the first time start to stand out more because there's less and less flaws to the skin, so you notice like tiny little imperfections much more. So every now and then you will end up going backwards and working back. So don't worry, it's not just you. It happens to all of us, because you just start to notice things more after you've been healing and making everything else perfect. All right, now I'm actually really quite fast at this process, so if you're slower than this, don't worry. It's just that I've practiced this probably for the last year at least, so I've grown very used to trying to get this done quick and moving fast with my work. But don't be discouraged if you're not this fast at first, because it does take time, it does take practice, and you'll get there eventually where you can just knock this out really fast and really easy. So we're just going to continue on through here. Keep healing everything that we see that needs it. It's a long process. Let's go ahead and remove this hair. And that's where the align is really good. And this we're going to have to go bigger, because as you saw, it creates kind of an odd texture. So you want to make sure you're large enough to cover the area that you want to heal, so that way it doesn't take the color and try to blend it, because that's one thing about the healing brush over other tools like frequency separation or clone stamp, is that it tries to estimate like what the color blend should be for the area you're healing to with the texture, and sometimes it screws up and actually just looks kind of smudgy and it's not good. So keep an eye on that, and if that happens, either undo and resize your brush, or go ahead and actually just paint over it one more time and keep healing it until it gets better. Sometimes that actually is a solution, is just to kind of keep redoing the heal until it finally blends correctly. Okay, so that's looking good. And soon we'll back out and we'll do our kind of global healing to make sure everything looks nice. But I usually save that until after I'm done, so that way I'm not cloning any imperfections that are small to a new area. I have those all taken care of before I try to heal global spots. So that way at least I know this texture is going to be good and it's not going to clone an error that I'm then going to have to fix. Some people work that way, but I tend to want to do the fine healing much sooner, just because I find it better for the overall progress. Because like I said, you don't want to have to do that and then you're creating extra work for yourself by duplicating blemishes, because that doesn't look good. So we're going to just keep going through like this. And I'm just a little quiet because I'm trying to focus on work and getting it done fast and stuff like that, because this is going to be a pretty long tutorial, because this is a long process. It's not quick, it's not fast, it's not easy. It's just time consuming. So we're just going to keep sampling, painting, getting everything done. And we're almost done with our initial heal. Fun fact, I actually recorded this video once with another image, and my Adobe Audition actually crashed in the middle of recording it, because I guess I ran out of disk space on my SSD, and it decided to just close the program out rather than kind of give me a warning of, hey, I know you're recording, but we're running out of space here. So this is the second time I'm recording this tutorial, so I really hope this is useful to you guys, because it was kind of a pain to make. All right, so I've got a little on the nose here. I didn't actually really retouch this area now that I'm thinking about it. I did the forehead, I did the cheeks, I did not do the nose. And you want to be careful not to get too close to an edge, because as you saw there, it can look really, really strange. So you want to actually really kind of zoom in and make sure you're doing a good job on edges like that, and you're not getting anything that's blurry or a weird kind of artifact where it's like messing up the line of the nose like I just did. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and back out, toggle this, and we can see all the work we've done so far. Quite a lot when you actually look at it. Okay, and now from afar, let's go ahead and look at areas that have little kind of discolorations or things that we might want to patch out, and let's heal those. Keep going through here. Heal any of these small patches of discoloration. And I'm going to want to reduce that line there, but not completely get rid of it. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. So like I said, we're not trying to do anything perfect here because we're just like healing the overall image. If we zoom in, you'll see it looks pretty good close up. It doesn't have too much of a bad effect, and we're just cloning the texture we already worked on. So it's not going to create any more blemishes that we need to heal, which is what I was iterating earlier in that point, was that if we do this first, you can actually kind of make the situation worse for yourself. Okay, let's go ahead and toggle this on and off and see the work we've done. And if you hold down Alt and hit this little eye here, you can actually see where you worked. You can see all the little spots that you healed and what needed work and stuff like that, which is actually kind of cool when you take a look at it. But that's all the difference that just those simple healing brush did. And now I did want to show you how to use this on a line or a wrinkle and not actually make it look unnatural. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer with Control-Alt-Shift-N, and we're going to zoom in, and here's our little line that we want to work on. And we're going to sample, and then we're going to paint over it. And now when you paint over it, all it's going to do is it's going to just completely get rid of it, which is not what we want, because that does not look natural, because people have little laugh lines. They have small wrinkles that are always there, and they're not something that really needs to be completely retouched, because humans look kind of weird without it. It's just part of our kind of natural being. So what we do is we heal it like that, and then we just go ahead and drop the opacity down to something like 34-ish. So that way, see, it just kind of fades it out, makes it look a little more natural. I think we could actually probably get away with doing something more like 20 now that I'm giving it a toggle. See, that just fades it just enough to make it a little less noticeable. All right, now, not only can you use this on skin, you can also use it to clean up things like clothing. So here's a very large hair and a few specks on her dress. So let's go ahead and do Control-Alt-Shift-N, make a new layer. Make sure we're on our healing brush with J. Take a sample off the shirt, and then just paint in like this. I'm just going to keep sampling. And I like to do things like that in small chunks, so that way I can undo really easy, because if you do a huge, long sample, it's harder to actually go back and undo a step. You can erase it, but it doesn't always look right when you erase and then try to heal over. It can really mess it up. So I don't recommend doing that for a long object or area like that, because it does not work. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. And I want to go over that just a little bit more because it was kind of a little too much of a light gray in this black area, and I didn't like the way it was looking. So just continuing through. Got little spots there, there. And I see here's where a line is really nice because we're just kind of popping around this little aligned box up here because we're just kind of popping around and it's kind of keeping up with where we want to go. And that is really, really nice. And now what I'm going to do is, because this is a line, I'm going to sample on the line there. And I'm just going to click and drag through. Same here, I'm going to click sample on the line and drag so that way it doesn't screw up the line in the clothing. We're just going to keep healing this out like this. And this simple tool can be used to retouch so much, it's crazy. So any little kind of imperfection we see. And I'm probably not going to spend too much more time on this. I just wanted to show that it is possible and it does work for this. Because it does make actually really large difference to just clothing as well, to kind of clean up all these little specks and dust and everything like that, and it makes it look a lot cleaner and nicer, and it can really make a big impact on your images without even doing much. So just kind of running through real quick, finishing this up. It's almost done. Sorry to make you wait. Let's go ahead and back up, do a quick toggle of this layer, and you can see we got rid of all those little specks and kind of healed that area up. So let's go ahead and zoom in and toggle everything as a whole here. So I'm going to hold down Alt and click this bottom layer, and that just hides everything but the bottom layer. And we can see that is all the differences we've made. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the face, take a look at our work here. And you can see it's just a huge amount of difference. It does such a good job at cleaning up the skin. It looks very natural and very neat and not overdone at all. So I hope this was able to help you guys today. If it was, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're not already. Feel free to share this on any social media you see fit. As long as my work is being shared and people are learning, I'm happy. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.